So this is like you have the two windows, you can view it here, and then you can just leave that up. Just make sure that's going to show you. Good morning. This is going to show you how many people. Hopefully that number will grow. What about the question and answer? Um, um,
What you talking about? That's you guys. I'm gonna say do something.
so you can go here to do that, and then live control if you want to go back to this page.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming over. It's a little chilly outside.
So I'll come back to the Q&A.
Who are participating with us. We have a information half hour that will be very, very interesting, and they leave you with a few questions about roles and involvement and those sorts of things that we hope to answer for you. And so we're just going to quickly run through the agenda and how we are going to proceed. We have, over the course of the last, I would say, 2 years, changed some things in our office in terms of roles, and our senior staff has changed a little bit, and we want to spend some time allowing you the opportunity to get to know some of us a little bit better, the areas that we're charged with, and how that's going to work and the impact that it will have on your work. So we're going to spend a little time this morning giving you that opportunity to meet our staff and hear a little bit more about the programs that are going to be coming out of our office. We have spent the last couple of months really focusing on the vision and mission of orientation. So we're going to spend just a quick couple of minutes talking about where we're headed with that, and the role you all will play with that is really kind of looking at the focus and the structure of everything that we do in the Office of Orientation. So as I said, we spent the last couple of months taking a hard, critical look at what we're all about and what we're providing for our students on campus. Once we're finished with that, we have some exciting new technology that we are in the process of onboarding. And so we're going to have a quick discussion about the My Orientation app. You're going to hear about transfer and first year programming, and then of course the true orientation session open up to questions so they will satisfy all of your needs and urges and so I want to do a quick introduction of our staff before we talk about the vision. So if you could just stand up and wait when I introduce you. So the first person we're going to finish here that you'll hear from is Kevin Urosik. I think you're all familiar with Kevin. Kevin is charged with logistics and marketing, social media initiatives in our office, and especially in the back, doing what he does best right now. We also have Ryan Newton, who's our assistant director. He's going to speak to us about transfer orientation. The other side of the house that Ryan is also tasked with is School Planning Week and our international student onboarding and transition processes. The focus this morning, however, will be solely on orientation. And then we also have our newest addition, Megan Baggett. She's our associate director. You may have met her already in some of the circles that you all work in as well. Megan is charged with our first year student initiatives as well as orientation team leaders and the family leaders. And it's worth mentioning too that Brian is also tasked with the transition mentors, our TMs. All right, so you're going to hear from them very shortly. My role in all of this is, as you can imagine, as the director of orientation, making the magic happen and bringing on the best possible team and having everybody with us. I also want to mention that our office manager, Randy Rubowski, is also here, so we haven't put a name and face together. It's mostly an email kind of a relationship. She's in the back room and hi back there. So we want to make sure that she's recognized as well. My role in all of this is basically allowing the folks that do the work to do it well, and that's where Ryan, Kevin, Megan, and Randa come into play. As we go through things over the next couple of months, you'll hear from me about family orientation specifically in our family programming. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time today talking about the family program because we want to focus on the students and the student initiatives. So big picture, advising, those sorts of things are kind of my wheelhouse, family programming, those sorts of things, and all the other things that are happening for a moment and field initiatives. All right, so the mission statement. For those of you that have worked with us a lot in the past, or have been with me since the very beginning of this, way back when, you know that we have a very, very lengthy vision statement for the office of orientation and for our programs. And what we have realized over the last several months is that vision doesn't fit with how students are learning in the university. The strategic mission of the university has changed. The students themselves have changed. Our perspectives has changed. And so what we have done is really taken what is kind of a bifurcated vision statement, if you can believe that, and kind of lessened it, if you want to call it that, and done what you can see behind me on the screen. And it's literally one sentence. And our vision is that every student will experience a seamless transition to the University of South Florida. Plain and simple, right? And it's whatever their interpretation of that is. We recognize that every single student comes in with barriers in front of them and pitfalls. We have been thinking and operating in the sense of how do we eliminate barriers? What are, for an individual, what is a barrier? And it's not fair to think that there's only a handful of students that have those in front of them. Change the focus and shift the perspective. Let's think about it in the sense that everybody has to accomplish something to be successful. Everybody has to take care of that quote-unquote new student checklist. Everybody has things that they need to do. And so what are those things? And that's where all of you come into play, helping us assist the students, eliminate those barriers, take care of those pitfalls, any challenges and tasks that are before them, and taking care of anything that's going to make them successful. Our main focus is in relationship building. And as you will hear specifically from Ryan and from Megan, that's our focus of our program, is building relationships. We want every student to leave orientation wanting more. We want them essentially to not want to leave. We want them to start class that day, feel as though that they are truly, quote unquote, I am a goal and I believe in a goal. And that's where we go with this vision, that we want everybody to identify with the University of South Florida. Caliber of students that we are bringing into the university far surpasses what our previous vision statement is and what we thought it would be. And that's where we are going with things. We have to come to them and not expect the students to come to us anymore. Because they can go anywhere. I mean, that's the honest truth. And so if we don't change and get over time, they will go anywhere. They will not come here. They will be. Okay? So I think we need to all realize that. That we want to create meaningful experiences and definitive takeaways, create action items, and create successful experiences, even as action items, and make sure that the students understand how to take care of completing those action items. And we need to realize as an institution that everybody's experience is unique. It is not a one-size-fits-all. The days of a one-size-fits-all orientation experience, specifically over here from Ryan, they're gone. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Our transfer students, for example, are very, very unique. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And so if we don't change our mindset and thinking that everybody needs the same exact thing, we are not going to be successful in that onboarding process. The other shift that we are doing is in our mission. The Office of Orientation will assist students and families in their transition to USF by providing resources and programs that promote academic success, personal integrity, global leadership, and foster pride in being a whole. We all know what the strategic mission of the university is, right? We all know about the QEP, we all know about global leadership, global citizenship. Orientation needs to get with the program, and that's what we're doing. We are looking at the well-rounded student, not just who needs face time, how much time is that going to be, but creating opportunities for learning, creating avenues for academic success, challenging the students to not just step out of their comfort zones and meet their peers, but to embrace new experiences. And that all starts with our programs. That all starts with the experiences from the very beginning. We have been thinking over the last several years about orientation being the day of session, the day that somebody comes in the doors of the Marshall Student Center, sits down in the seat in the Noble Theater, and the program starts. Those days are gone. The orientation experience starts from the very first interaction that our office has with the student. And it doesn't end until they have successfully matriculated into the university. And so that may be an email conversation, it may be a phone call, it may be a face-to-face interaction, it may be an online video module. It may be a number of different things. And of course, that also includes the face-to-face. But in thinking about that progression, we don't want people to come into our doors, sit in the seats, go through the session, and then feel like, okay, well, what do I do now? And who's going to continue to make that happen for me? And so what we are doing is looking at it being a holistic process, not just a couple hours and done or 2 days and done. All right. And again, that's where we're going to ask you all to assist us with that. And we know this is going to be a gradual process. It's going to take some time to happen, but it needs to start now. And so when we come back from the break, that's really when you're going to start hearing from us. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue. But essentially, we're looking at giving the students real-life experiences, doing it in a forum that is inviting and engaging. Let's not think about facilitating presentations. Let's talk about telling stories, doing activities that are going to be thought-provoking, engaging them in the experience, and thinking about what that truly means. Thinking about what it means to bring technology to the students. We've all done sessions where the students are sitting there on the phone for it, or we're not paying attention to what's going on in front of them, and how frustrated we are. Well, let's be real. They're not going to stop doing that. So how do we bring the technology to them? And that's what Kevin's going to talk a little bit about. How do we use the technology to our advantage and stop thinking about, oh, they're just not paying attention and all of that. And let's think about how to embrace the technology and use that. And I know for some of us, myself included, that's a little scary. So we will help you along the way. And so thinking about what that means for the students. We recognize that all of you, including ourselves, have done a really great job. This is not it's broken, we need to fix it. This is how do we propel ourselves forward and how do we do better? It's not orientation is doing their job. That's not what this is about. It's about how do we move forward? How do we progress? How do we continue to grow both as a department, as programs, and as an institution? And so to speak, play with big boys. Get in the show, get in the game, and continue to embrace where we are as an institution and for the students. Right? So I'm going to turn things over to Kevin. Kevin Dewey, and I'm going to give him a few minutes to talk about the UI Orientation Act. When he's finished, we'll move through with Brian and then Megan, and then I'll be back up in a little bit to close things out and to answer any questions for you.
Thanks, Mark. So as Marty mentioned, we are looking at launching what we're going to call the My Orientation App. So when we went to our national conference, the NOTA organization, we met probably half a dozen companies who offer different apps orientation folks. So I really spent some time looking at those because this is something we talked about. We selected a vendor called Legit Apps. They're actually, some of them are seniors at the University of Kentucky, and then one of them is actually graduating. So they're all college students. They designed it initially for the University of Kentucky with their in line with what the university needed, and then realized that this is something that they can change out. So we're really happy to be able to support students as they're going out there in your science career and really kind of developing that way, and not necessarily just choosing some large company that multinational as well. With that being said, we are trying to do a Spring 2015 pilot, realizing that the session is on Monday, and App Stores and Google Play, it takes some time for those to get approved, and contracts and those kind of things. But our hope is that on the 15th, we will be able to promote this to the students as a pilot, just to get them to download it and kind of get some advice, feedback from them on what they like about the app, how we can improve it for summer, fall. Because we're really looking to do a full launch in summer, fall for everyone. So that would be all first-year families and transfer students. So the app will integrate scheduled that way. It has a Genius feature, as they call it. So you can go in and it'll say, I'm a transfer student, I'm an international student, I'm a family member, I'm a first-year student, and we'll have coded all the events based on that, and it will preload those events into their schedule. So that way they have everything they need to know. But they can, of course, go back through the schedule at other events. So for instance, say Global Beginning Week, the required events in Global Beginning Week, we would add into that schedule, and then they can go out to add additional events. The other nice thing, again, with the families is that there's a lot more opportunity there. And once I'm able to add this in the App Store, you can download it, and you all can kind of get an experience with it. We do want to integrate it into the sessions to try to get a little more feedback. So there is opportunities, all of the events we can enable rating features. So right at the end of your event, you can say, please go into the app and rate this on a 1 through 5 stars, and we can have that right away. So 5 minutes after your session, I can come back and tell you that the students that were there today gave you a 4.5 out of 5, anything like that. We can also link to external websites. So based on your session, if you have, you can create short surveys that they can link from the app and communicate with you that way throughout the session. So that's something that, as in spring semester, as Megan and Brian are talking to you, I'm going to join in some of those conversations and kind of see how we can integrate this app into your existing presentations, really enhance that to utilize the technology to make it more interactive. And the biggest part of that for us is also getting that feedback of seeing what's working, what's not working. And this will give us the opportunity to get feedback on that first orientation session day, maybe the second one for the first one, all of us, get confident, get things out. But really getting that feedback right away, so we can say the students they have questions about this, they're not, they're not enjoying it like we thought they would, they wish there was more information on this, and really being able to then tailor that throughout the summer, rather than waiting. Kind of like we do now, we do the surveys and compile that in the summer, and then make changes for the next year. So we're looking to be able to be more reactive and incorporate that information throughout the summer. So the other thing that is somewhat of a limitation, is only available on iOS and Android. So there's not a Windows Phone version, not a BlackBerry version, there's not a mobile version. So realizing when we're talking about that, we will have to think about students who maybe don't have one of those two devices and how we can kind of incorporate them as well, so that those who experience. And that is something we can easily work through partnering up in sessions, that kind of thing. But the hope would be that this would add kind of the session by providing the event schedule and all that interactive information, but also lead them to locations and different things that have features that load all of your options into the app, and they can just put education program, click education abroad, and we'll walk them directly there. So we're really excited about that. I hope to have something for the spring that students play around with, you all can some feedback as well. And then for summer, fall, so as early as March for transfer students, we're looking to launch this 100% credit. So, and it is called the My Orientation App. This is what the, if you download it, that's what it will look like. And I will send an email as soon as it's available. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you who haven't met, my name is Ryan. You can see many of your faces again. For those of you that are new, nice to meet you. I do want to talk about transfer, as Kevin and Ryan alluded to. This is probably the most radical of the changes, if you will. I don't mean the word radical, it's like scary and intimidating, but probably from if you use the word overhaul, it's going to be the most significant change that comes today's conversation, I guess. So let's start with what we know. We know about transfer students, and we know that they are a diverse population in learning settings. So we've got non-traditional students who fall into our transfer student population. We've got INTU students who come through the INTU USM program, who are classified as transfer students and come to us having already been on campus for maybe 2 semesters. They know campus, but maybe they just have never selected their own classes. We've got your traditional horizontal transfers that are coming from, or traditional vertical transfers that are coming from community colleges, and you've got horizontal transfer students who are coming from like University of Florida or other 4-year institutions. So trying to serve all those, it's not as neat, pretty to fit in one little box as first year, where you've got 8-year-old first-year students that are coming from high school to serve in this 1 2-day session. So having said that, we took that information and said, well, what else do we know about transfer students? And we found a couple of things, not only through our surveys, but through some focus groups, some research and other things that we did. And we found that part of this is that we needed to create a more personalized orientation experience, more customized approach to this. This was something that when I interviewed 2 years ago, was something that I said was one of my priorities, that I wanted to customize the experience and help people feel like they matter at this institution, even if they were a transfer student. And that's something that we're kind of following through this year. We knew that they wanted more peer-to-peer interaction. A lot of the transfer students that came through said they didn't really want to talk to me. They didn't want to talk to people who were older than them or who worked on campus as much, and maybe they just needed to ask a peer who had been through it, how did you do this? Like, who do I talk to? Because maybe we put them in front of us and we say, here's the information, but the reality is they might be listening to their friend that's telling them something different anyway. Is that better? Probably not. But we're going to balance those things out to make sure that we get our time to share with them, but they'll also have a little bit more time to talk with their peers, connect, and learn about their experiences. And then more individualized advising opportunities is another priority. A lot of our transfer students left saying they didn't feel like they knew how their credits were going to transfer to the institution, how they register for classes. And so, we have our student staff, we're in there in the afternoon trying to help them register the courses, and they're saying, well, I still don't know what I'm supposed to do. Right? So we've recognized these as some of the priorities and things that we wanted to address in supporting the transfer students. Now, going back to this concept of unique populations, we realized it's really difficult to do in just one format. And so this is the big drum roll moment, I guess, where I'd like to share with you all that we are going to move to a two format method. And what that means is that we'll have two different types of orientation for transfer students. We'll have your traditional transfer orientation, one day, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., similar to how we know it now, with tweaks within it. And we'll also offer something that is going to be an invitation-only express session, called Transfer Express. And that is more of a half-day format. We're talking about advising happening by 10:30 in the morning, and the students potentially being out of here by 1:30 in the afternoon. The reason for that is to meet the needs of those non-traditional students, the parents who have children in daycare and need to leave early, people who have full-time jobs and come up to us in session and say, I can't be here. And typically we force them to stay, and we say, well, the only way you can do it is to register for classes if you're here the whole day. And so rather than creating something and forcing them to go through it and feeding them that negative experience, we're going to go ahead and grab something that is invitation only for a select population, students over a certain age. These are also students who have an AA degree potentially that are coming to us with their AA degree already earned, and potentially our A2 students. The cool thing about this is that it allows us at the end of the day, since we're done with orientation formally from around 1 o'clock, it allows us that 4-hour block in the afternoon to do optional programming on top of what we already offer. For example, if we wanted to have a veteran session, if we wanted to have an into session, potentially back in the college one and more time with those students. These are all things that can go right into the day in that 1 to 5 o'clock time frame that can be considered optional or on top of the mandatory orientation session. So there are a lot of details in this that probably not best to share here because there's going to be so many questions about that, and that's obviously why Megan and I and Marty and our whole team are going to be reaching out to you individually to talk about how we see your fit, hopefully how you see your fit with these programs, negotiate kind of how those things are going to work. At the end of the day, though, I want to give you kind of a quick overview of each. The traditional format will be similar to how it is. Instead of checking in as individual students, you can just pick any check-in table for those of you that have seen checking in Atrium in the mornings. You're going to check in by college. So we're going to have a sign that says College of Arts and Sciences, track, ECS, nursing, and so on. So the students will go, they'll immediately meet with their transition mentors who represent that college first thing in the morning. They'll stay with those transition mentors throughout the day. And that's that peer-to-peer connection. So the people that they see first in the morning that they're checking in with are also the same students that have hopefully been through that college, right? Because our goal is to put student leaders that graduated from that college as the student leaders representing that college. Not to misquote people, but just to say I've been through that, I get it, I know how it works, I've been through classes in this meter, I've been in your shoes and I can help you with this. They'll be with them throughout the entire day, they'll lead them through the rotating sessions. So whereas many of you supported before it's kind of that pick and choose a la carte menu, that won't be the case anymore for either the transfer traditional or transfer express program. Instead, we're giving them what they've asked us for. And quite frankly, whereas we always thought the a la carte menu was the best case, most transfer students tell us that it's not, and that they don't want to have to choose. They just, because they feel like they have to choose, and they're missing out on something else that they could have been going to. And so we're kind of taking the choice away, but we're still giving freedom within a framework to do other things throughout the day as well. So it'll be led directly through certain sessions, and obviously there are things that we're required to share as well. And those things will still shine through in the sessions. Make sure I'm not missing lunch here. Lunch, our hope is to have lunch together with the transition mentors, at tables perhaps with them, so we can have families, students, peers, and staff, faculty, anybody that will be invited to this lunch, all in the same room at the same time. Right? It's not a food court thing like peace out, see you later, have a great day, hopefully you come back, because sometimes they don't. So our hope is that that keeps them together, gives them more opportunity to connect. And again, these are, I hope you're all seeing as I'm talking through these things, places where you can carve out a niche within your own student population, right? So let's say we've got a group of students today. Perhaps the team for veteran success comes and gets to sit with those students at lunch, right? And likewise for any of your particular niche groups. So this is all about customization, building in more individualized experiences. We know that transfer students are faced with a number of barriers when they get here, probably more so than our traditional first year students. And what we want to do is help them eliminate those barriers in session. right? Going back to our vision, having a seamless transition to USF. The more of those barriers that we can overcome on day one, being orientation or day zero, if you will, the better off we'll be in the long run, as opposed to them having to try and solve it week 1, week 2, or week 10. Another part of that that Marty alluded to earlier is this holistic approach to orientation, right? So not looking at orientation as just a half day or 1 day thing, but as an experience. And I'll give you a perfect example of how we're doing that with our transfer students already. Every single transfer student that comes through our doors and reserves an orientation gets a personal phone call from one of our student leaders. And that phone call just says, hey, we're just checking in. Want to make sure you're ready to go for your orientation next week. Want to see if you have any questions before you get here, right? So we're kind of front loading a little bit. Is there anything that we can help for setting expectations, setting the stage for what to expect in orientation? Then on the back end, after they've attended orientation, every single student that has attended our transfer orientation this semester has got the personalized phone call that says, how are you doing in school? Have you been successful? Have you connected with the people you need to connect with? Do you still have questions? And surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, some of those questions or conversations are like 8 seconds long. No, I'm good, thanks, bye. Some of them are sad, we're not here anymore, it didn't work out, hopefully we'll be back next year. And others have lasted an hour long. And so we've had students that have totally taken advantage of that, and our student leaders have done a great job of making the orientation experience bigger, broader, making sure that seamless transition to one-day experience. And so I hope from a philosophical standpoint, that helps you kind of see where we're going. I know that I don't think Megan will either go into every incident detail of that, partly because we're still crafting so, but also because this is about where we're going in terms of our vision, our mission, what we believe in as a group, as a department, and this helps us get there. So we're excited about these changes, and certainly I know you're gonna have a lot of questions because it's big. It's a big change. Big, hairy, audacious goal, 2 formats. The other piece of this that I want to share with you before I hand it off to Megan is that we have also increased the number of transfer sessions that we'll have. What that allows us to do is decrease the number of people in attendance and increase our ability to serve those students at the session. Follow me? So by having more sessions, we can have fewer students attending each session, which gives us the opportunity, again, to personalize the experience, give them more direct one-on-one conversation, one-on-one service. So those are kind of the big picture changes that are happening with transfer. I won't bog you down with the details just yet, but I promise those are coming. And so as we set up individual conversations with you all or share that information, we'll be sure that we disseminate it. Miss it? Cool. So I hand it off to Megan to talk about first year.
How's everyone doing? Is anyone else as cold as I am? I feel like I'm like 12 degrees. Clearly that didn't work. So, good morning. My name is Megan Dadness, and as Marty mentioned, I'm the associate director and have the honor and privilege of working with our first year program, and also our family leaders. So, I'm going to talk with you a little bit today about our vision for what we see in the first year program and how we see that evolving over the course of the next few months. I think, as Ryan mentioned, we're pretty excited about our vision and where we're headed. And I'm going to start by just sharing a little bit of our philosophy with you. So, I started in May last year, and so I mean, perfect time, right? You just jump right in. It was like May 21st or something. I met our orientation team leaders, and like 2 weeks later, we had session. I was like, no big deal. I have my polo khaki, it's good to go, right? Well, let's make it happen. So I think it was our second week. I met a student at our carnival at the lake night, and you can always tell at the carnival if students are connecting or not, right? If they're the only ones going to the festival by themselves, or if they sort of got a little group of friends. So there's students that were just sitting off by themselves, and I went and chatted with that person and asked about the orientation experience. How are you doing? Have you got the information you feel like you need? And he was very organized. I have some questions answered. And I was like, that's great. Have you met some people? He was like, no. How am I possible? There's the other people here. Like, how is that possible? But they're really, he just had not made that personal connection. And so we talked a little bit about that. Next day, he happened to be in the cash lab, and I was overseeing registration. And so I sat with him, and we got nurse super classes. And before I left, I said, so did you meet anyone else? We sort of talked about how you could do that the next day. And he said, I met one person. And I said, well, if you have got to stay in touch with that person, that would be amazing. So fast forward to fall, I'm in the food court. I still don't know the student's name. That's open and honest with my disclosure there. No idea who he is, but I hear him. Hey, you. Hey, hey. And I'm, you're in a group where there's like 9 million people there around you. And I turn around and I recognize him, and in my head I'm thinking, you know me. I think I might know you. He's like, hey, do you remember orientation? And the correct answer always is, of course I do, absolutely. And so it took me a minute, but I made that connection back with him. And he said, I just want you to know that that friend that I made is one of my classmates. And I was like, oh, this is like making me so happy. That's his name is Jim, just in case you're wondering. So, but the thing I started thinking as we started working through this idea of what first year looks like, I wish you could have been in our meeting where in the Dean's conference room, there's like a war room in there. It's like, well, it looked like wallpapers. We said flip charts everywhere. I'm like, what do you want to do? What is the most important? We started with why do we do what we do, and what's the most important, what are the most important pieces that can help guide our philosophy and how we come up with it. Let's not just do it haphazardly and what we think. Let's really go back to the basics. So I'm sure all of you, probably people in wellness, definitely recognize that those higher activities. And that's when we started. So what do students do when they come to us? They're anxious, they're nervous, they don't know what to expect. They walk into check-in and there's like all these other people. We give materials, go get a cafeteria, eat some breakfast, and then we're gonna bring you out on the lawn and we're really excited. And we're like, okay, yeah. But we really looked at what do we need to do with students? How can we help move them through sort of meeting their basic needs, right? So one of the things they absolutely they want to know where they're doing, they get some food. They want to make sure that they know where they're going to sort of look through that anxiety. But more so, how do we help them feel safe when they're home? Right? Those are so important. They're going to make good decisions about what they want to do academically, where they want to be in the future, and how, if they don't feel like A, they made a connection, and B, they feel safe and secure in what they're doing. That's one of the things. We also talked a lot about what are some of the transition issues and challenges that our students face, and how can we utilize that information and make decisions about what's most important to happen during the years that we have students with us. And finally, we talked a lot about how we want to deliver the information, and what do we know about how students learn and how people learn. So we talked about some of the major changes that we're making in first year. I wanted to share that with you so you can sort of philosophically see where we're headed. So when it comes to the first year program, on the right hand side, wait, your left hand, left hand side, you'll see one of the things that we're continuing. Unlike Ryan, we're not doing first year express where they come for 4 hours, so like in and out. Yeah. We are continuing with the 2-day overnight format, giving them that overnight experience, whether they are living on campus or having tuition. We feel like that is an absolutely critical piece, an important part to their experience. Building that pride and being involved. We want, as Ryan said, happy students to leave here and say, I am so excited to be involved. I'm not just going to get some hands up here, I can put my sticker on my car, post it on Facebook, just love yoga stuff. We want to instill that pride and connection right from the beginning. That they made the right choice. Continuing our small group meetings with the orientation team leaders. Again, connecting to others, giving them opportunities to meet people, make those connections. And then finally, leaving with the schedule. So you press it on the list and not worry about what classes they're taking to do with their schedule. So how are we going to improve that? What does that look like? As I mentioned, we'll stay with the 2-day format. But in those 2 days, we're really moving from this idea of presenting information. So we also need to have involved in our presentation. We like 30 minutes the old theater, we're like, okay, we're going to sit here for 2 hours, stay engaged, we're going to put people up on stage. And I just like, I felt empathy for y'all. You know, if you're in the third center, you're like, got it, we should do this, make it happen. So, really more presentation to workshop format. How do we actually engage students? How do we actually engage them in processing information? How do we actually engage them in figuring out what does this mean for me? Which takes me to my second bullet point of information sharing and communicating. So how do we tell them, here's what you need to know about the residential experience, here's what you need to know about the theater, here's what you need to know about that. What does that actually mean for me? What are my to-do items? What are my takeaway? What are my action items? What are the things that make sense for me in relationship to that information? Utilizing peer-to-peer teaching. So we know students learn best by doing. So that's another they learn that by Not necessarily the people who, because sometimes I've been in situations where like, you're supposed to say that because you're in charge. Well, yeah, but actually they believe it, believe it or not. But they believe it so much more when it comes from someone that they can relate to in a peer-to-peer level. So they're really moving to that peer-to-peer teaching where we as an orientation team leader, you're giving our orientation team leaders an opportunity to facilitate some of that learning growth as well. We do have like a home for every single student that comes here. So if they are living on campus, that's great. They see that as my home, that's where I'm living. We want every single person to feel like when I step on campus, this is my home, this is my home, this is where I belong. So thinking about how do we do that in a way that gives them an opportunity to have buy-in and connection to campus. Tangible takeaways, the who and how. So we have Great Power Tuesday, and the 2018 Facebook page and our Facebook pages. Questions on there about how to do basic things on campus, like how do I look up the CMS or in Oasis, or how do I turn in my immunization forms, so just basic things. We want to make sure that they have the information that they need. We're not going to be able to answer every single question during those, even if we tried, they wouldn't retain it, there's no way. So how do we help connect them with resources so that they know the who and what and the how? Like, who do I need to go to and how do I need to do that to get the information that I need? And then finally, orientation is more than a 2-day experience. And Mark really talked a little bit about this in the sense that going back to that, we can't give them everything in 2 days. There's really no way. So how do we really think about what's appropriate for preloading or front loading in terms of information? What's important face-to-face conversations? What are the things that we can't do via email or via phone call or via newsletter or via module? What are the things that are most important face-to-face? Going back to that meeting making and connecting. And then what's the follow-up? So after you've attended orientation, what are those most common questions? What are the most common things you're looking for? And how do we help intentionally direct them to the right things? So as I mentioned, I'm going to go into some details right now. I cannot wait to start and start working with you all on developing this program, but we're very excited about this idea of really engaging with students more so they have ownership in their orientation experience, and have more ownership in USF, and more ownership in utilizing our awesome campus resources via partners in a way that's going to help them. So, in saying all of this, you can tell we're really excited about what we're doing and where we will be going with this. And I know that you're probably sitting here thinking, well, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for my department? What does it mean for my information? So we don't want anybody to leave here feeling like, well, we picked the 12 team, and I'm going to be the last one standing in line waiting. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, we will be reaching out to facilitators, facilitators and the partners, and engaging you in conversations about your role in transfer and in first year, and then eventually in family. If for some reason there isn't a designated face-to-face time allocated within this program, we don't want you to worry that your information is not going to get disseminated. Megan and Ryan have talked at length about the fact that there are opportunities beyond the 1 day, beyond the 4 hours, beyond the 2-day experiences to get that information out. Okay, so we're asking you, just as we have done over the last several months, to not forget about the way things have been done in the past, but to kind of store it in the back of your mind a little bit. Keep it there, to reference as you need to, but really kind of embrace the change and be open to where we are going with things, much like we have done for all of you, as you have changed your initiatives and come up with different plans and opportunities for your departments as well. We understand that there is information that absolutely has to get out to the students. We're not moving away from that. We understand that. We understand that there are mandates in place. There are things that are absolute. They're all being considered. They're all being put into place. Okay. So please don't think we're throwing the baby out with bathwater in doing all of this. We know that. We recognize it. I mean, we put a lot of thought and effort into this, and we truly are excited about the opportunities. But in saying that, we don't want to cause anxiety
for anybody, including all of you. Because we know that some of you are sitting here going, okay, so what does this really mean? So as I mentioned, over the next couple of weeks, we'll be reaching out. Dates for orientation will be released on January 5th. Okay, so it'll be released to all of you, it'll be released to the public. That includes the transfer express sessions, all the transfer dates, all the first year dates, and anything else in between that our office is doing. That way, we have pretty much 3 or 4 months of plan for what this all means. If we're talking about transfer, it's a little shortened of a timeline because really our first session is everything about our March. Okay? We go live with reservations for everybody March 2nd. Okay, so we've got January 5th, March 2nd to really figure out what this means. Our Florida A degree holders will be just prior to that, so be mindful of that too. So it's not really from a communication standpoint, we have 2 months, but from a big picture standpoint, we have 2 months. Okay, so it's not that much time, but there is time in there. So in saying that, in those meetings, they will be very focused on learning outcomes, objectives, the takeaways, the action items, developing the workshop concepts that Megan talked about, where we are going, making sure that your voice is heard and what all this means. What defining what your goals are in this process. As we continue, I will be creating the family program, okay? And then we will be sitting down and talking about what the family concept means. And make sure we have a first year program before we have a family program, right? And do all that together. In talking about transferring, defining what the role is, you're smiling at me, what the role of parent family programs office is in the transfer experience as well. So we don't want to forget about the transfer students in this concept, but knowing that family members may not play as large of a role in some of our transfer student experiences, but knowing that in our lower level, younger transfer students, they absolutely still play. So we want to make sure that we're defining that experience as well. All right. And again, we really just want you to think about what your role is and what you can contribute to the new student experience. Okay, it's kind of, again, you scratch our back, we scratch yours. We are hoping to continue to develop and define relationships and partnerships, to not just be a take kind of concept, but what can we give in return? And that goes beyond the orientation experience. It goes beyond the base time. It goes beyond all of that. So thinking about your own programs and initiatives and where there might be a place for us to assist you in creating and maintaining and developing relationships that maybe haven't always existed. We really want to think about that, and we're serious when we say that means a lot to us. You contribute a lot of time. You contribute a lot of energy, a lot of manpower to making our programs successful, and they have been very successful in the past, and they will continue to be successful because of all of you. And so we really want you to think about how the office of orientation can pay that forward, and how we can continue to support all of you, where maybe that support hasn't existed the way you would have liked in the past. Okay, so we really want you to think about that. All right. So at this point, I'm going to open up to any questions or any feedback, any comments that you might have. And again, we know that we haven't necessarily spent time talking about the creative program formats, and those will happen in those individual meetings. Any questions? Yes.
I have a question about the orientation now. Is that evaluated for flexibility?
It's fully compatible options for the teachers in iOS and Android, but there's not a specific textbook version. So all the functionality will work with the web accessibility features in operating system, but there's no specific.
Does he have to get evaluated?
In terms of it's integrated within the existing features within iOS. So, in terms of the different features that they have set up already within the system, but there's not specific, there's not app specific features. For example, most
once we have a version, I'd be happy to, we can go forward with that.
Yeah, just about that again, I see some potential for several of our programs integrating our information into that app. That's sort of how you see that working, where if there's things that we can't necessarily get out of the formal presentations, we might be able to integrate into the app.
So, you know, even if it's links to different information within description, we can do that. If it's separate, then it's absolutely.
Is there also a way to track access, who access that app, and getting some sort of statistics about
Not specifically who, but how many, so we can track how many people are viewing different events, how many are clicking the links. I can tell you, I'll be able to tell you how many 75 people clicked on the link. We don't know specifically. The login feature, anything like that.
On that note too, I want to chime in. As a whole office, we can talk about creating a culture of data sharing. And so, as Marty mentioned earlier, in terms of what can we give back, this is an opportunity not only to ask, but through like the focus groups that Megan and I conduct, the interviews, the survey data that we collect from orientation sessions. We're hopeful that we will, in the future, be more mindful. We know we will be more mindful in the future of sharing that information with you all. So you can see what data we have that helps make our decisions, and in hopes of sharing that collectively to group and creating this USF culture of data sharing where we all have, and we're all operating from the same page, right? So the app is one way to do that as well, which I think is really good. I thought, since we're on the topic, it also is going to apply to other things beyond that as well.
So much is part of the question before we have. We're planning to conducting our orientation sessions. Those of us in our respective areas, we may know the students need to have as far as the students in the house. But for the students to see what they need to have as far as the how they are different. And I wasn't sure if there's a way to get some of that survey information that as we're constructing our program, and putting together our learning objectives and outcomes, we can take that data to make sure that it's answering the questions.
And I don't want to speak for Megan and Ryan regarding the conversations that they will have, but yes, in terms of the conversations that we've been having over the last couple months, for example, you and I met,
Yes.
before we talked about wellness and where that goes. And those conversations have been put into play in the decision making about the program. And you'll see that as those meetings happen, you'll see that those conversations are being integrated, that information is being integrated into, for example, the closure process. And Megan and I talked at length about what that means. So we don't want you to think about, we just kind of discredited all of that information and said, well, we're not doing any of that. We have taken all of those conversations, all that survey data, we can certainly share with anybody that wants it. There. And that goes for all of our changes that we're making. It's student focus groups, it's all of your feedback, it's phone calls, emails, everything that we've been getting over the last, I would even say year, that we've been hearing from in session, note taking that we've noticed. You know, these are the questions that people are asking. This is what you're asking. This is where there's gray area. All of that is being taken into account. Other questions? You've done this such a great job. That's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you all. I mean, obviously, you know, this isn't the last time you'll be hearing from us. Hear a lot in the future, as you always do. But I want to thank you all for taking the time this morning. I know we're all very busy this time of year. An hour to log in and join us. If you have any personal questions, please let us know. Our door is always open to all of you. If you have suggestions, we would love to hear them as well. But with that, I'm going to close out our meeting and we'll stick around for a few minutes if you want to chat. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day and hopefully we'll wrap up. Thank you all. Appreciate you. Thank you.